Well, welcome back to another episode of Attempting Not to Get Sacked with Huddersfield. We're now at episode 22, and if you still are enjoying the series, make sure you drop a like, drop a subscription if you're new, tell your friends if you have any, tell your girlfriend if you have one, and tell your parents that video games don't make you violent. Like they do in America, apparently. Although saying that, have they ever seen Ben Gibson defend? That would make me very violent. He's left the club, and yet I'm still talking about him. I might just have to bring him back in January then, and then sell him again. In the last episode, we took on Leicester City away from home on our return to the Premier League and got beaten 2-0. Not the result I was looking for, but it is what it is. The games after that did look surprisingly quite easy, and it has proved to be. I mean, I don't want to brag, but I feel like this team is going to hit Europe soon. And when I mean taking on Europe, I mean getting knocked out in the second qualifying round by some Slovakian farmers and someone called Martin scores a penalty. I'm sure Martin's a lovely bloke, by the way, but he's a farmer. Steve Mounier scored from the spot in the game following the Leicester match as we beat Crystal Palace at home by a goal to nil. We followed that up with an away trip at Everton, and Neil Maupay scored on his full debut for the club after a knockdown from Callum Hudson-Odoi, and then he was involved in the second goal as Nick Powell played him through, and then he played it straight back to Nick Powell, who then ended up hitting the post but then put in the rebound. Idrissa Gueye scored in the second half, but we ended up holding out for a 2-1 win. Nick Powell was also involved in the 1-0 win at home to Brighton. Once again, we scored for a penalty, and then we faced Brighton in the Carabao Cup but got knocked out through Daniel Sturridge scoring early on. That does lead us into our games against Norwich and Leeds United this episode, but as you can see on the table on the right, we are currently 5th. We're just outside the top 4. Cardiff are ahead of us on goal difference, which is a bit surprising seeing as I was slagging them off last year. But our easiest sort of run comes to an end after the Leeds game as we take on Chelsea, Man City and Tottenham in the next 5 games, so we're definitely going to plummet down the league. So the chairman has come back to me and has confirmed our season ticket sales for next season and has told me that we've sold nearly an extra 3,000 season tickets this year. So at least all the glory hunters have come out of the woodwork. I wonder where they'll be when we play Carlisle United away in 3 years' time when I'll get this team down to League 1. Sorry, someone else will get this team down to League 1. If I get relegated again, then I will definitely be sacked. So a few days before we took on Norwich, Cardiff beat Chelsea by 5 goals to 1. And it actually sent them to second place in the table. Although before we actually take on Norwich, they are now currently 4th. So don't get confused for the fact that they're 4th in the results table, but they're 2nd here. I haven't made a mistake. I make a lot of mistakes in this series. That's not one of them. Also, I don't want to list off every mistake I've made in the series because we could be here all year. And as much as you probably want me to be here all year, that's not going to happen. But now we move into our first game of the episode away to Norwich City. Now, Norwich are currently in the bottom 3 and without a win so far this season. So with that in mind, I've gone for a more conservative 4-3-3 formation. Dean Henderson keeps his place in goal. Khan Ayana comes in for Fabian Schär as Schär has picked up a knock before the match. And Paul Dummett replaces Reguilon at left back. We've gone with Marcus Llorente playing as the sole DM with John McGinn and Juninho Bacuna playing ahead of him. And the front 3 in Steve Mounier, Ollie Burke and Callum Hudson-Odoi remains unchanged. I mean, I look at that team and I think definitely going to finish 14th this year. If you think about it, Norwich being in the bottom 3 and having a few of our former players probably means they're our B team. And if we're not whacking, I meant to say whacking. How did I get whacking wrong? And if we're not whacking them by 5 goals to 0, then, well, I should resign. I'm not going to resign, but I should resign. Now, they've left Colin Quainer and Ben Gibson on the bench, which is a bit surprising since I sold them over the summer, and I thought they would be first team players for them. And the fact that Ben Gibson isn't playing against me probably means we're not going to score against them. Although thinking about it now, we've been on a really good run of form recently. We've won our last 3 games in a row in the league. I mean, games like against Norwich should be games that we should be winning pretty comfortably. I've really put myself in the shit now, haven't I? This is probably where Samuel L. Jackson comes in and says, "It was at this moment proudly knew he fucked up." So we started off the game with the first highlight, and John McGinn got the ball from about 30 yards out and played it to Ollie Burke, but his cross went straight into the goalkeeper's arms. Part of me thought at this point, why is this a highlight? This clearly isn't a highlight. That wasn't until the highlight carried on and Ryan Fraser's cross found Timu Pukki at the back post and he fired it straight past Henderson. Great, we're 1-0 down already. All this shit I've been giving Norwich and then they go and take the lead against me. We are definitely going to lose, aren't we? We're definitely going to lose. The Football Manager gods are against me again. Oh, turn on the camera and then my team suddenly can't kick a football again. We started piling the pressure on Norwich, and after about 27 minutes, Callum Hudson-Odoi got some space down the wing, put the ball into the box. It was headed out towards John McGinn, who laid it off to Ollie Burke, and his shot somehow stayed out of the goal. And then a few minutes later, we had another highlight as John McGinn laid it off to Juninho Bacuna, who just fired it over the bar needlessly. Despite the fact I've got the team instruction, work the ball into the box, and I told my centre midfielders to stop shooting. Oh, great. So they're not listening to me either. At half-time, we were still losing, so I told the team they need to pull their socks up because at this rate, we're not even going to get into the Europa League. I mean, that is quite bold of me. Like, I've only just got the team promoted. I'm talking about Europa League already. I mean, let's start off first by finishing 17th and then working our way up. It was time to make a tactical switch and Nick Powell came off the bench to replace Juninho Bacuna. And with time ticking down, it was time to send on Neil Maupay and Chris Brunt into midfield to try and get us a goal here. And would you like to know what those tactical switches did for my team? Absolutely fuck all. I did actually say at the start of the game that Norwich were currently winless, so I'm basically like Robin Hood. I take from the rich and I give to the poor, except I don't take from the rich because I get battered by all the top 6 sides. I just beat all the middle class people. So Dean Henderson has extended his contract at the club for another 4 years, which is great news for us because we did need to tie him down. He's been a very good goalkeeper for me since I signed him. Unfortunately, he couldn't keep the ball out against Norwich, but it is what it is. You know, you love to see it. I don't know, I used that in the wrong context. I'm so used to saying that now that I just use it at the wrong time. Oh, Chris, your friend's been in a car crash. You love to see it. So I've set a lot of my first team players to play for the under-23s to give them match fitness, and I found out that they played Tranmere under-23s and beat them 10-0. Neil Maupay got 4 goals in the game. Even Marvin Sordell got a goal. I mean, Marvin is now really playing at his level. Although we will have him on sometime in the Premier League. We'll give him an appearance here and there. I can't really think of a team worse than us in the Premier League so far, so Cardiff maybe. I found out as well that the 11.5 million transfer fee I paid for Eros Grezda is apparently the record for an Albanian player. And people say I don't help the economy. I should be the Chancellor of the Exchequer. For Albania, not for the United Kingdom. I mean, have you seen my spending at the moment? I'm being reckless. We'd be in even more debt than we are in the UK. But now we move into our game against Leeds United at home, and with that in mind, I've picked the same formation that beat them last season in the FA Cup by a goal to nil. But I have freshened things up and I've changed the squad around a little bit. So Fabian Schär returns from injury and takes his place at centre-back alongside Matthias Jorgensen. Sergi Samper also comes in for his first start of the season to play alongside his fellow countryman Marcus Llorente in defensive midfield. Eros Grezda replaces Ollie Burke on the right-hand side to make his full debut for the side. And Neil Maupay leads the line for us as Steve Mounier has been dropped to the bench. It's a big game and I've picked basically a lot of players that don't know how big a game this is. I would say this is probably on par with the derby in Argentina. I forgot what it's called. I'm sure someone can tell me. I've forgotten the name. But it's up there with that one. I can't really lie. I look at that Leeds team and I think to myself, that's a beatable team. Like, I'm not surprised we beat them in the FA Cup last year because they really are shocking. How on earth are they surviving in the Premier League with that team? Sorry, I don't mean to shit on Leeds because I actually quite like them as a football club, but I'm in the instance where I am the Huddersfield manager, one of their biggest rivals. So I need to shit on them at every possibility. And also everyone does it on social media anyway. And in games like these, you have to give the passionate for the fans team to it because there's nothing better in my eyes than making the fans pay 40 quid to see a shithouse a 1-0 win at home for a penalty. Twice. I've actually just put 2 up on my fingers, but you can't actually see it, so I don't know why I've done that. This save is getting to my head. And it was only 18 seconds on the clock as Callum Hudson-Odoi started running at the Leeds defence, but his shot just went wide of the post. I say just wide, I meant the keeper knew it was going wide anyway. Wasn't really troubling him, was it? But with 10 minutes on the clock, Paul Dummett cut in and crossed the ball into the box on his right foot. Kazawa headed it out for Eros Grezda to volley it past the keeper and to repay all £11 million I paid for him. And some people have been a bit sceptical about this signing, and they said, oh, he's a bit of an awful player, Proudy. I can't believe you're going to go down again. You really are crap at this game. That must have silenced the haters. There's no haters. I don't know why I'm pretending that I'm big or anything. After Kiko Sisio caught the ball from one of our corners, he then booted the ball straight through the middle of our defence, allowing Kemar Roof to run through, but he put his shot wide. I feel like that's something we're going to have to work on in training. Like actually heading the ball or actually being in defence. And then we were halfway there to another 1-0 win over Leeds. It's one of those great tweets where you put Huddersfield, the handshake emoji, and then 1-0 wins over Leeds when Christopher Proud is manager. Actually, I think that's a bit too specific. And as much as I'd love to tell you there were a lot of highlights in the second half, there really wasn't. There was literally 0. We won 1-0. We're in the top 4, baby. Here we go, Champions League.